Next up is CODY PACKER from New Zealand. So take it away, CODY.
Thank you, Tom. Lovely to see you, Alexis, and thank you for sharing. Much appreciated. Lovely to see you, and lovely to see everyone else. It is nighttime in New Zealand, so this should be interesting. Yeah, I'm CODY. I'm a person who stutters. A little bit about my journey is I just very briefly I started stuttering when I was about 2 or 3 years old. I got every sort of help under the sun, from like hypnotherapy to speech therapy. I went on like a McGuire 3-day course in Australia when I was a teenager. Did art therapy, all sorts of stuff, and a lot of it never really struck a chord with me. A lot of it actually, reflecting back on it, actually reinforced that I was broken or there was a problem with me. And I think as a young kid, that was really confusing for, like my mind and my body to process. So, I naturally resisted any sort of help. I was very stubborn. I wanted to hide it. I was quite embarrassed by it. Everything that I got help with to do with my stutter always focused on, the mechanics of it, and never really kind of considered the psychological aspects of it. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Throughout my journey over the years, it took me till I was 26 to really connect with my who I truly am, which is how I sound, and right now who I have been all along. But I was in resistance of this person. I didn't truly love him, and it's still been a journey to process a lot of that stuff. But I found this Hay organization in the United States when I was 26, and I worked at a camp there with 200 other young kids who stutter. And I had some really profound experiences there where I was able to it was the first time in my life other people had let me stutter and told me that it was okay. And that I heard a bunch of other, kids and adults just speaking the way that they spoke, stuttering some more than others, and there was no judgment attached to it. And I felt kind of like I had walked home in a way, and I've been looking for this space for my whole life. And it was, profound experience. I think over those 2 weeks working with the kids, I got to know myself a lot better and come to like love myself on a deeper level. And then after I got out of there, I wanted to start exploring about the psychological aspects to our stuttering, right? So quite often it's spoken about like, oh, let's try and control the output. But very little is spoken about like the internal world of us, what goes on inside of us before, leading up to stuttering, during the experience, and also after. So I've been on quite like a journey the last 3 or 4 years, working with a bunch of different organizations, like listening to people. And so what I'm going to talk to you about today is a thing that I've started kind of, started teaching recently, is stuff to do, well, with, like your mindset. But I wouldn't even call it that because, I'll start with the mind. So, with the mind, when it comes to stuttering, when you look at, like the human mind, it predominantly deals with illusion. Okay. So like the mind, the classic quote, we suffer more in imagination than in reality, has been a big, huge learning curve for me. Is this like we create a lot of our own misery in our minds. The movies we play every day, anticipating bad things to happen based on past experiences. The mind always works in past and future. It never works in like the present moment. So when I started like looking at my own stuttering experience, I started to realize quickly how heavily driven by the mind it was. And when I was a kid and when I was an, like an adult a few years ago, I was heavily trying to predict events that were going to happen. Like, oh, I'm going into work today. I've got to give a presentation. And then my mind started playing these old movies. Oh, when you've done that before, you failed. This happened. You got judged. And it started creating all these things. And I hadn't even left my bedroom yet. Like, all these things, I was torturing myself from just inside the walls of my bedroom. Now, this hadn't even happened yet. This completely took away from, the fact that I could have walked into that office and nailed it. And I from the walls of my own bedroom, I could have also created a movie I was playing that was the complete opposite. They're both not real. So then I started to realize, oh, okay, why play the movies where I'm struggling? Why not start trying to play the movies where I'm confident? And all of this is subjective, but my point is that we are choosing to play our movies. I was always choosing to play the movies of me failing. And then, the way the brain works is it goes to look for evidence to make it real. So then what you do is you show up in your environments with this movie playing, and then it actually becomes real because your brain actually does not know the difference between what is real and what is like just in your mind. There's been a Harvard study done which absolutely blew me away, where they hooked up pianists. So what they did is they got pianists to play the piano in a room, and they hooked them up with their brains to a machine, and they got the readings of them. And then they got the pianists to go into another room and pretend to play the pianos. And the readings were exactly identical. The brain didn't know that the pianists were not playing the piano. They were imagining themselves playing the piano. So then I started to realize, oh, wow, if that's the case, then if I'm imagining all these things going wrong, then of course that's what's going to happen. If I'm imagining all these things that, are going to eventually, bring me anxiety and this and that, there's only one way that movie is going to play out. And I saw it time and time again in my lifetime, that being the case. Now, obviously, it's easier said than done, but I think my point here is that we have a choice. Choice is the key word here, right? We can choose to stop playing the movies, actually visualize yourself. If you ever catch yourself playing those movies and creating the anticipation for things 2 or 3 days away, you have the choice whether to play the movie of it going wrong. You have the choice also to press stop and actually interrupt your brain pattern, and then jump in and actually imagine a different outcome. Now, that outcome can look different for everyone, right? So the word confidence could be going into an environment and stuttering it within your presentation, but confidently, right? Where there's no judgment or anything attached. That might be where you go in and advertise. It might be saying at the front of a presentation, hey, I'm a person who stutters. I just want to let you all know that if I do stutter in my presentation, that is why. It's going to look different for everyone. But my point is, choice is the key word. We always get a choice of how our life plays out. Then what I started to work out is then I came across a thing that really, amazed me. That was the quote, energy speaks for you when you enter a room before your words do. Now, I found that so fascinating, because I started again reflecting on my life of going into rooms nervous, anxious, in that movie that was playing of me it going wrong. And then I realized, when I started to play those movies back, I was like, oh, wow, I could see people, and we probably all experiences this. If you walk into a room nervous, the room knows, people are already anticipating, oh, this guy's nervous, that energy speaks louder. You haven't even opened your mouth, and people can get an idea that you're nervous or you're anxious or or, you know, you could just be, you know, like frustrated from another thing. It doesn't even need to be related to speaking. But then what I realized was, okay, so if energy speaks volumes before words, then playing those movies before you go in is so crucial. Playing the movies where you know, be confident in your own way, or, you know, it's going good for you, like in a way of like where you are in power. It doesn't necessarily need, yeah, you know, mean you need to be fluent, because I don't agree with that at all. It's whatever it looks like for you, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. What does confidence look like for you? What does it look like to go into a room and just be like, I guess, in yourself truly? So then I started to work out, okay, when I was walking into these rooms before, and I was in the past, you know, I was in the past or in the future, how can I be there, like in the moment? How can I be there in the moment? And then, so I started doing all this research to do with like embodiment. Now, embodiment is where we come out of our mind and into our body. So you might have heard some stuff in, you know, the mindfulness world where it's like breathing, or, you know, like nervous system regulation, where it's just like your breath is the best point of reference as an anchor to being in the present moment. Because if you're noticing your breath, you'll notice that your mind is, your thoughts go way down, because your body is putting all its awareness on, oh, am I breathing? What is my breathing like? So I started to investigate all these practices of, and what it meant, right? So if you bring awareness to, say, your breath in a moment where you're anxious or nervous, what you actually do is you stop all those negative thoughts, and then you have the ability to say to yourself, okay, this is now and that was then. What did happen, you know, has happened, that's fine, but it doesn't need to happen again here. Like I'm in control here. Like I'm going to my breath, and I'm choosing to be here presently, rather than being in those past or future anticipation, or the past, I would say, hurt. And so then I started kind of experimenting with that, and really kind of working on a, you know, like a daily practice, trying to, trying to connect with my breath, and trying to, I started doing a bit of, you know, meditation as a practice, you know, daily. And what I started to work out was, when you spent more time in your body, these, you know, this mind, you know, like the monkey mind, and, you know, like what I call, you know, like the movie mind, they went way down, because your brain can't do a lot of things at once. It has to focus on one or the other. So if you're living up here, those movies are going to play really, really vividly. But if you're down here in your body, this just goes quiet. Your brain is actually processing what you're processing down here. So it doesn't actually have the chance to go on this wild goose chase with all these crazy movies it plays. So one thing I really like to do is, like, you know, if I'm ever going into, you know, like, or I'm in a presentation and I'm about to speak, or I'm in a room, or I'm anywhere, there's a very simple exercise I like to do for a minute, where I just notice the weight of my body on whatever I'm sitting on. If you put your attention on, say, your bum on a chair, and just notice the chair like holding you, and, you know, taking your weight and your body pressure going into the chair, and then you just breathe really slowly. This is a thing anyone can do without being, like, noticed. It's not obvious, but what it does is it takes your awareness from here down to here, and then all of a sudden you can just be in that room, and you can be there. You're not, it's slowing down everything up here, and it's actually, you're not in your past, you're not in the anticipated future, you are just in the moment. And it's been quite radical, really, because, you know, I believe you know, it comes back to choice again. Do we choose to do that, or do we choose to let the autopilot play? And I know for me in the past, it was, you know, it's so, you know, when you get into those, you know, like movie things, and it's almost like out of your control, and jumps into that oh, that anxiousness, that anticipation that I've experienced countless times, you're actually not in control. But what I've worked out, you're still choosing to press play on all those things that are playing in your head. And what I've learned, I guess, is just that it's about trying to have a relationship with that awareness to say, oh, wow, I'm noticing I'm doing that. Press stop, pull yourself out of it, and then you can make another choice. Now, what do I do next? Where do I go next? Do I go to my breath? Do I just take a couple of big, deep breaths? And then it's like it's a process. And you know, and what I also have found is it's a practice, right? This is not like a thing that just happens and you get it right. And there is really no right way, I guess, but this is a ongoing kind of relationship with your stutter and with that experience. And it's been quite amazing to like learn all this stuff and how much I believe our experience is recycled. Yes, there's new things around us at any given moment, but if we actually look at how our brain works, it's a computer program, it's a memory bank. Our unconscious mind is a memory bank. So anytime it looks out at an environment and it's been in that kind of situation before, it just goes back to a memory, and then that's when it takes over. And that movie starts to play, your body gets hijacked, you feel your heartbeat, you start to sweat. That is actually calling up the emotions, you know, the stored feelings of what happened probably 5, 10, 12 years ago. And that means you are no longer currently experiencing the room you were in. You're experiencing the room you were in 12 years ago, whatever. So I think what's been really interesting, you know, I guess for me to learn in the last few years is that, yes, it's a mindset thing, but I think it comes back to where we can really make our choice with how we relate, I guess, to our experiences on a day-to-day basis, and is in our body. It's with our breath, and it's getting actually out of our mind, because our mind is where the prison is. You know, the brain wants to keep us in the mind, but if we go to the body, the brain quiets down, the mind quiets down. And I believe that's where a lot of radical change can happen. And what it will look different for everyone, because obviously everyone wants different outcomes. They want different relationships with their stutter, which is totally cool. But what I can guarantee is that the body and the breath and those embodiment practices, when you come out of the mind, you will be much more, I guess, in control, for the lack of a better word. I don't love the word control, but you will be driving your experience, put it that way, rather than the experience driving you. And I think that is a massively much more radical way to be in relation to our stuttering, because then it's not just happening to us. Like we are driving our experience, and we get a choice at any given moment to say, man, we're doing awesome. Like, we're doing awesome. We went into that presentation, we still stuttered, but we didn't choose to play that movie. We went in there today and we imagined ourselves doing something different. And, you know, or when you did get tempted to get back into the mind and run away and, you know, kind of beat yourself up, you chose differently. You chose to press stop, and you chose to take ownership over that, take some deep breaths, and really like try to cultivate a new type of relationship with your stutter. So I guess that's just like what I wanted to pass on. It's been quite radical for me, I guess, over the last 3 or 4 years. Again, it's not going to be for everyone, but I can only speak to what I've experienced and how much it's like changed how I relate to my stutter. So yeah, that's kind of what I had to share today. And I love that we have a platform to do this, and we can have all these conversations and hear all these different viewpoints, perspectives, stories, voices. And I think, yeah, there's a lot we can just learn from each other. So very much appreciate you all being here and your time. If anyone has any questions, maybe we have like a minute. Otherwise, a few minutes, I'll throw it over to Phyllis my other good friend from New Zealand. But yeah, if anyone has a question, just feel free to like yell it out or put it in the chat. If they have any kind of questions about like the embodiment kind of stuff, or anything that interested them, or otherwise we'll throw it over to Phyllis. Oh, thank you guys.
Hey, Cody, I have a question for you.
Please.
Can you hear me? I think you can.
I can hear you.
Okay. I think that everything you said was very interesting, but do you have any suggestions like how we can guide someone through this? Because as you said, it is easy talking, right? But do you have any way we can like get someone to do the things you are saying to do and like be more present? Because in my experience, it is very hard to someone to grasp what you were saying unless they have themselves been through it and actually tried it.
Yeah.
So if you have any, I don't know, tips about
Totally.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's a great question. That's a great question. I think the first thing I would say that's the easiest for anyone to access is if you want to start cultivating, I guess the word presence is a good word. Start by just like putting 2 or 3 minutes on a timer on your phone. Just go to somewhere that's quiet, close down your eyes, and just put the attention on each breath going in and out. Just like notice your belly rise, notice your belly fall. And this is like, it's like when you're working at the gym, right? Like, or anything, you start small. Everything you do, you start at the very low threshold. So you don't jump to like trying to do like a half an hour meditation or something like that. This is a thing that you build up, and you kind of like slowly build your relationship to it, right? You flex your muscles, and I would say the breath is a great place to start for anyone, because everyone breathes, everyone knows what it's like, and anyone can close down their eyes and just notice their breath for 2 or 3 minutes. And you'll notice pretty quickly, if you put your actual focus down on your breath, how little mind activity goes on. If there is some, that's totally cool. But also, quickly, I guess what we can do is just do like a very, very, very brief exercise, like really quickly before I introduce Phyllis. Anyone that wants to participate, just close your eyes quickly for me. Anyone that wants to participate, just close your eyes. This is only going to be for about a minute. So just close your eyes. And now whatever surface you're sitting on, just notice your body weight, your pressure going into that surface. So just notice, your bum or your back on the chair, and just notice the pressure going into it. Now notice the chair under you, holding you up. Like actually just notice what it's doing. It's holding you up. It's under you, it's holding you up. Now again, go back to your body weight, pushing down on that chair, that surface, whatever it is, your bodily pressure on it, and just notice it. Now after that, now just come up to your belly and just notice your breath just going in and out. In and out. Now, while I was guiding you through that, like very few people were probably like, oh, what am I cooking for dinner? What am I doing this? what am I actually, you know, like most of you are probably just like focusing on my voice and then what I was telling you to focus on, right? So you can actually create this internal dialogue and talk to yourself that way if you do need to just have a moment, if you're flustered or you're stressed, and you can just internally say, now focus on this, now focus on that. Your brain will just shut down. Your brain will just do what you tell it to do. So, you know, like it's so, and obviously again, this is a practice, right? This is an ongoing thing. This is not going to work 100% straight away. But all I can say is that you can use your brain to your advantage like that. And and then, you know, the more you cultivate it, also the more you will catch yourself when you are up in your brain playing these things that aren't happening. Then what you'll do is you'll just be like, okay, I know what I need to do here. Go to my breath, go to what am I sitting on? And then even just a minute, then you shift and what you do is you tell your brain, oh, we don't do that anymore. We do this. And then it's a slow thing where you start to shift the way you move out of patterns, you move out of, and it's just keep the practice going. And there will be days where it's harder than others, but all I can say is just, and then, you know, like in the morning or the evening, take 3 or 4 minutes to do like a meditation, like a guided meditation, either on YouTube or something, and just keep practicing that. So that is, I guess what I would say to answer your question, but it is easier said than done for sure. But it is a practice is, I guess where I would leave it.